Okay, whenever you're ready. I'm going to set this, so I'm going to keep holding it. Go ahead.
When Adopt a Village in Guatemala began its work with the Maya 20 years ago, the people were still in the throes of their 36-year civil war. 20 years has passed, and today we find an incredible situation, a sad situation, that these same people who suffered so much during that war now find themselves with actually less food today than they had available to them before the war. Yes, we're in the midst of a global world crisis. We're in the midst of a global food crisis. And that is fairly well known. But what is little known is that here in Guatemala, people are suffering from the fourth highest level of child malnutrition in the world. It seems extraordinary. It is extraordinary. I mean, there's only 3 countries worse in the world than what we have right here in Guatemala. And we are at a crossroads, a clear crossroads. Adopt a Village has spent these years with the Maya providing training and resources to help empower them to better their lives. And in many respects they have. And most importantly, at the basic level of education, Adopt a Village can be proud to say that they played a part in bettering the conditions of education in this area of Guatemala. But the grave concern today is that unless something can be done to offset the massive hunger that we find in this area of Guatemala, that work will come undone. Today we're talking about surviving. People without food can't survive. People without food, children without food, can't learn. Kids are coming into school and they're hungry and they're obviously malnourished. Women are carrying children malnourished in the wombs. The babies arrive and they don't have the strength and the health to survive childhood diseases. And the tragedy, little known even to parents, is how they suffer brain damage. And the obvious is how they suffer stunting. We find ourselves in this situation unexpectedly, thinking that we would see progress after the war, thinking that actually the peace accords that were signed in 1996 would actually give the indigenous people something to help them better their lives. For the most part, honestly, it hasn't happened. And most sad of all is the situation of the hunger in these areas. I said that Adopt a Village was at a crossroads. It's a good crossroads. And why is that? Because in this 20 years, we've been able to move from building primary schools to helping in middle schools to constructing one of the most unique educational extension facilities in Guatemala, in this very remote region of Guatemala. And what does that mean, and how is it going to serve the people? Simply this. This educational center sits on top of a mountain, working particularly in organic agricultural methods that we are taking every day to village families. We have just launched a brand new village project of family organic gardens. Our students are very involved in agroforestry at the school. They are being trained. They are traveling to the villages. They are imparting their new skills, their knowledge, their experiences. And as they reach out and touch and help their own people, those same people now can come back to the school and learn with the students on an extension basis. Our education, yes, is to train students to take their skills, their philosophy, their values to the villages. But at the same time, the other side is that the village people can also come to us to take of what we have to offer, what we can teach, what we can give to help them create a better, a more sustainable life for their families. Families can't afford to buy food here. The food costs have skyrocketed to the point that some families eat only every other day. And we can ask ourselves, but why don't they just plant a garden? Sounds simple? It's not simple. In the first place, people cannot afford to buy seeds. In the second place, much of the land is depleted, burned out by use of fertilizers. The whole process from the very beginning must begin if people can begin the sustainable life through food. They must build, construct their own soil. They must sow their seeds. They must save their seeds until they come to a point that they have a circle of life. And we know, because we see it and we do it and we experience it every day through our educational methods, that creating this circle of life and bringing food and sustenance and sustainability to the people of this region of Guatemala is possible.
Okay, you don't say that it's a high school anywhere. I think the education extension center is kind of confusing. It doesn't, in the States, that doesn't mean anything.
All right. Because I don't want to call it a high school. I'm deliberately not calling it a high school.
I think education extension center is very confusing.
Very confusing. Okay.
Yeah.
Ready? Our Center for Education and Development is positioned in a remote region of Guatemala. Remote, yes, to some people, but actually central to many small villages dotting the mountainside in northwestern Guatemala. This unique educational center has been designed and created not just to train indigenous children from surrounding villages, but to take our education to those villages through our students and to bring back those parents who wish to learn skills and improve their experiences. We have the facilities, we have the resources, we have the ability to do both those things. We have an ability to create the type of education to help sustainable living. This kind of education is not available anywhere in this region. We have made it available through our desire to help empower the Maya of Guatemala?
I think another thing that might be interesting is to cover somewhat how it's a hand up and not a handout. I think you say it in maybe one of the videos, but that we're not just giving them the garden, that they have to work in their garden and they can take pride in, something like that. Pulling themselves out of malnutrition, something along those lines. Do you think? Does that sound good?
The goal of Adopt a Village in Guatemala is to provide the resources and training to help empower the Maya. Our philosophy is clear. We do not create welfare situations. We do not have giveaways, handouts, welfare programs. To the contrary, our firm belief is respecting the dignity of the Maya. We respect their knowledge, their experiences, and what we most of all want to do is create conditions in which they can help themselves and build their own lives. We want to create conditions of independence and of pride and ability so that they can pass along those survivor skills from generation to generation.
That sounded really good.
Did it? I think it's corny.
No,
I'm afraid it gets corny, but if I can't get on a roll, I can't get it out.
No, that's what you have to do, and then we can edit. Is there anything else?
Well, I think, I hit on the school.
Here we go. All right, last chance.
At our Mayan Center for Education and Development, we take in selected indigenous students from surrounding villages that come from poor families that have no possibility of improving or getting a better education. We look for students who have leadership capabilities, who have a set of good values, who are enthusiastic, and most of all, display a keen desire to go back into their villages to help their families and help their community members.
Okay.
Now I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Just something with the train a student to transform a village.
Okay.
Because we're trying to, the main idea is to get them to give money to the students.
Okay.
To the high school, to the school.
By working with this plan, in other words, by bringing in students and training them at our center, and then seeing that they go back into their villages to take the needed skills for survival in their communities, we are basically not just training a student. What happens in that process of training the student and having that student go back to the village is the ability to transform the actual village. So it's not just education for one solitary student. It's education for an entire village. It's the type of education that can transform a village.